Welcome to Lunch and Learn. Hello from Texas. Yes. Hello, Amanda. All right. Well, I'm a little excited on this one. So, if you are at the hyperlocalagent.com/class, you're actually experiencing our brand new website and I might be a little proud of it. So, by all means, after class, look around. We've put so many amazing resources in there. If you are connecting over the email invite, you probably just have a replay page. So, it's not as pretty. So if you want to go to the other link, by all means do. We're streaming right on it. And today is a fun one. Let me actually make it a little bigger. There you go. I got terrible lighting, so good thing it's not about me. It's all about, slides and classes and you learning. That's kind of the goal for Lunch and Learn. So grab a notepad and I would say let's dive in. It's already 12:02. There's a ton of stuff we're going to cover. So let's do it this way. This way you can still see a real person. I always hate just looking at slides without looking at a person. So problem solved, right? And today it's all about targeting for sale by owner listings in your farm. So that is the goal. My personal goal for class is always to hear how was it. It's a big one of how we've grown the hyperlocal agent. It's a big one for me to make sure what we're sharing is actually relevant. Because I've spent so many times, an hour on a class and it was all this like rah talk. And I'm like, but now how do I do it? And that's the part that we're really trying to combat with these Lunch and Learn. So you step away with an action plan, right? We do suggest people just text the word review to 844, which is our business text line. It still goes straight to my phone, but it goes to the hyperlocal agent phone number. If you text the word review, it'll auto respond a Google link back to you. And once class is done, or if you have to hop off, but you do want to review class, you can this way. And this is how we grow, right? I do think bribery is the nicest thing of, you take some time, I take some time to bribe you. Leave us an honest review though. We do want to have an honest review of today's class. If it is helpful, yes, let us know about this, right? And all of our honest reviews are receiving a Business Builder box as a thank you, free of charge. You take the time, and I think time is really, really precious, so we do reward that one. So what's inside the Business Builder box? That's like the number one question we get, right? I don't know what the Business Builder box is. The Business Builder box is my repeat and referral business in a box, really. And it's business building tools to enhance your business knowledge, your real estate business. It does have a postcard template in there for our sphere, right? Referral and retention strategy. I do send postcards to my sphere, so it does have one of those in there. Sometimes it has books, sometimes it has business building tools, lots of stuff that is part of this amazing box. And again, that's just the word review. You can just leave it on your phone lying there. And then when class is over, feel free to respond. So targeting for sale by owners is the topic of today's Lunch and Learn. Listings in your farm. Let's just say we all love a good listing, right? I've actually been picking up a bunch of buyers, and this strategy right here is phenomenal to put deals together off market. Like this has to be currently, I'm doing one right now, and it's absolutely fantastic. Like these buyers feel so special because they have something that nobody else knows about. And this seller is just happy that everything worked out the way he was hoping it worked out for him. So disclaimer, you're all over the United States. You see it in the comments. I got Texas, Massachusetts, Tennessee, more Texas. Cedric was just on our boot camp. Now he's going to hang out with us here. So I'm glad I didn't scare you away yet. So one of the things that I always tell everybody, I am a licensed instructor in the state of Illinois. Some of you are in disclosure states, some of you are in non-disclosure states. At the end of the day, you all have a broker in charge, right? A BIC, a managing broker, however you want to call it, somebody that's responsible for what you do. And if that is you, well, you're in charge of your own actions. You all run small businesses, and these presentations are for educational and informational purposes only. And we believe these to be accurate, but obviously you are in different states. So be smart about it. Now, the goal for every listing appointment I go on is pretty simple, right? I want the listing agreement signed. And when I show up for these Lunch and Learn classes, I have goals as well. These goals are not for me, however, these goals are for you. When I see people attending class after class after class, I always wonder, how much are you actually implementing? And the goal here is really simple. When people attend classes, I want you to have 3 of these actions to take. Either you decide, maybe I should learn more about the topic and I'll take another class. Maybe I want to learn more about postcards. I want to pick Janine's brain. I'm going to do order her book. Or 4, I actually want to try it out and see if it's right. And I'm going to take the boot camp. So there's a couple different levels of actions that we differentiate, and I'm going to just walk you through these. So if you see here, the lifetime learner, right? It's like the curiosity level. Then there's our book reader, being like, oh, you know what? If people write books, they probably put good stuff in them. And then there's the person that's done all the classes, they've done all the reading, and they're finally like, what is missing? And the problem that's missing is your action. And that's what the boot camp is there for. So those are your 3 options that I typically find people go on after class. So that's the class pass. There's like, actually, we're coming up on, I think, close to 30 classes that are on demand. This is not a membership. You have literally 30 days from the day of the start of your class pass. If you have not logged in after 29 days, there's no extension, no pretty please. This is, you have a deadline, make it work for you. And I mean this in a really, really nice way, because we have all these good intentions, but nothing happens without a deadline. So some of you are saying this is tough love. I don't know what happens in life. Some of you are saying this is exactly what I need. I hope you fall into the category of this is exactly what I need, because no results happen without action. And I think you all know that. So ClassPass, books, again, I love writing. I don't know why I ended up writing books and I liked it so much. I mean, I'm dreading right now the ones I'm currently trying to write, which is the 3rd and final book in my series, Success with Real Estate Mailers, all about the referrals and retention strategies. But I'm going to get to that. It'll be released in 2025. There you go. I just put myself out there with a deadline. And the goal is really for people to understand small business marketing with direct mail. And then for the action taker, obviously, this is where we microscopically take everything and dissect it. So step by step by step, you see the action it takes to get a postcard out, right? All right. Now, if you don't have the workbook yet, feel free to go to the hyperlocalagent.com/workbook. It's a direct download. There's no opt-in, no nothing. We do like these workbooks because there's a lot of strategy in these lunch and learns. And sometimes it's just nice to have, a piece of paper you can refer back to. All right, everybody good? Everybody settled? Well, let's kick it off. So first up, for sale by owners, right, are becoming a great referral source, and potentially even just pocket listings if you have a buyer looking. But also only if you are building a relationship. I think you realize that a lot of for sale by owners are the type of people that are thriving on a genuine relationship. I do think every listing appointment that I'm leaving without a signed listing agreement, right? Sometimes people are just out there talking, getting some idea on a number, it's a start of a conversation, a start of a relationship. But every single listing appointment that I leave is falling, was a non-signed listing agreement, is falling under my for sale by owner category, at least mentally. So if I leave a listing appointment and they're still thinking about it, I now think about it, okay, how can I make sure that maybe I find a buyer for this, right? And that's part of the hyper-local charm, that you become the connector for buyers and sellers at a certain point in your farming career. And that's what's happening, for example, right now. It's been happening throughout the years in my geographic farm. And you really become the go-to person that holds a lot of insights. And that is expert status. And that is valuable. So fair warning, again, rapid fire. So ask all the questions you have. Anything we don't cover, I would want to make sure we cover it. But let's start out here with some of the best FSBO tips that probably I've heard on any of the highly specialized for sale by owner calls. First up, all of the people going after for sale by owners have a system and automations in place. They also know how to respond to objections, like, in their sleep. It's crazy how quick they are. And that's just, again, repetition and practice. They decided they wanted to make this pillar their pillar. And this pillar is not my pillar. This is not the pillar where I'm making like ridiculous amounts of money just because I don't have that many for sale by owners. But these pillars are really, really interesting to study because it can help you on your hyperlocal farming basis. And what I also noticed is that they actually all show up with some sort of value to the for sale by owner. There's not many people that are going to be like, well, you're not going to sell for sale by owner, so therefore you should hire me. None of the people specializing in FSBO mastery are having that as their strategy, okay? They also realized the bottleneck to your business is you. You're here to help. You're not here to sell. And then they have also given us a couple scripts on frameworks. However, they do not use these scripts like you would think we practice them. It's just really more bullet points and conversation guidelines. So I've picked out a couple of them to look through, like the most common ones, and we're going to talk about these two today. So first up, benefits of being a for sale by owner. Feel free to chime in and let me know, but based on the conversation, the benefit of being for sale by owner was obviously the number one, right? Save money. Historically, FSBOs sell for less, but there's also the exception to the rule. I'm sure you've heard about, the FSBO that got that and more for their house. I've heard about them. I've seen them. They've been FSBO listings in our MLS. They sold for a ridiculous amount of money just because the market was right, okay? And that was a full market value sale without the commission fee tagged on. Now, that was obviously prior to when we knew what was happening, which now we really don't, but that's okay. Saving money, still a big part of why people even consider trying it, because it's hard to imagine $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of your equity sometimes being used for just the transaction itself, right? Like that made people queasy. It's a direct path to the buyer to understand their motivation without third parties in the middle. Believe it or not, the more people you put in the middle, the harder communication sometimes gets, right? And when communication slows down, people get frustrated. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting a direct path to people. I think we personally do not communicate enough. I think the communication skills we have as humans are really, really bad in most cases, and it's something we should all improve on. So we can't really blame people for wanting a direct path to, is that what the buyer said, or is that the way the attorney said it? Because this sounds really bad. We just don't know. And then negotiation power, right? Not all agents are great negotiators. There are some sellers who are just thinking they can do a better job. There are sellers that had bad experiences and they're thinking, I could have done a better job. So again, you never know, right, what happened in somebody's lifeline to kind of figure out, okay, is this one a good negotiator or not? So, but first up, what's hyperlocal FSBO mastery, right? Everything that we're going to go over, you can apply for sale by owners in general, for sure, 100%. However, so many of you know me on this specific Lunch and Learn. My focus is always the hyper local level, right? Increase my listing inventory inside my farm, increase my transactions inside my farm. And part of that is sometimes I have for sale by owners pop up. Now, you will likely never have enough for sale by owners in your farm, right, to make a living off them. If you're trying to make enough, for sale by owners, you're going to have to go bigger just because there's oftentimes not enough for sale by owners in your farm to generate enough income to call it a solid lead pillar. Let's see, there's also, Matt just putting an article in there. I'll put it on the bottom. Anybody want to screenshot that one? On the replay, the founder of For Sale by Owners using a realtor. Yep, we have those stories, right? Same story that is up there with the Zestimate and the Zestimate that's so off for Zillow CEO. There's a lot of these stories out there, but getting armed with some of this background knowledge is important, right? Just keep that in the back of your mind when you approach them. Obviously, they have a solid belief in being for sale by owner, and we want to make sure that we slowly get the horse to water, right? And that's really what we're going to do today in today's class. I'm going to show you the exact system, automations, and everything that you can put in place. Just like I said, you can apply it in general. You can blow it up if that is your lead gen pillar. For me, it's the farm. And that means that I want to make sure I have something in place in case I have a FSBO pop up. It is also a whole lot easier for me to get my foot in the door because they've already seen my marketing. They've already seen me, and they are somewhat familiar with who I am and what I can do, not just for them, but what I've done potentially for the neighbors. So first up, let's answer the question, where do you get your data, right? This is always the number one questions. How do you go about phone numbers? How do you get addresses, right? What about the emails? So I figured, let me compile a bunch of things for you to just feel free to take a screenshot. But there's really a lot of different sources that you could utilize. And believe it or not, I've had a for sale by owner appointment from Facebook Marketplace. Yes, so that was an interesting one too. I just stumbled upon it and be like, hey, I know your neighborhood actually really, really well. Can you tell me more about your townhome? I might actually have a buyer. And they're like, oh my gosh, Janine, I get all your stuff, right? This is actually my mom's place. And she's never used a real estate agent in her entire career. That was the story behind that one. I said, that's totally fine. I'm like, I don't have to sell everything, but you know what? If I can help you, let me know. So other ones that you could look at is obviously the sign, right? That wonderful red FSBO sign. They call it driving for dollars. So if you see that one pop up, it's good to know. Drive your neighborhood. I just drove my neighborhood yesterday. I had to deliver a bunch of CMA packages, and Mondays is garbage day. And guess what? I think I'm going to start driving on Sundays because the CMA packages I delivered were all, not all, 50% of them were probably delivered to households that had an extensive amount of garbage on the curb. Now, you can read this however you want, okay? But for me, if somebody is starting to throw out a fan and a mattress, a this, a that, I'm like, oh, are you decluttering by chance? So again, driving for dollars has always been something that's helpful. I think it helps you to also get a good feel for the neighborhood. Yes, the pile of somebody's trash is really an indicator of what's going on, right? But anyhow, so back to the data sources. Neighborhood social media pages, right? Hey, we're thinking about selling our house. You could also look for things like, hey, we're looking for moving boxes. If you see that kind of conversation happening, you may want to look into this a little bit more, right? Moving boxes is one keyword that is always good to look into. Anybody hired movers recently, right? It's like, okay, what's up with that? So think about these kind of things when you're looking at neighborhood social media pages. Nextdoor, I actually have not been active on Nextdoor. I should really get back to it. It's a phenomenal site. The easy ones, FSBO.com and forsalebyowner.com or anything similar. I mean, there's a lot of different ones out there that have the similar purpose. Zillow, right? And then we're going to get into some of these other paid lead sources that a lot of the heavy FSBO mastery people use. Again, I don't need it personally, but there are a bunch of other ones, right? All right. So now that everybody feeling good about this one, like where do I get the data? Take a screenshot, right? This one here is probably one of the most complete lists that I found. Very good. All right, we'll move on. If you don't disrupt me, I will continue going. So let's talk about the 5 biggest objections first, right? Because I think it's always good to be prepared to know, and this way you can figure this one out. So 5 biggest objections. What do we have here? Let's debunk some of them because, well, they're not just that hard. Let's just say it this way. Now, I can do it on my own, obviously, right? This one, I think you can overcome in a very, very interesting way. And I do think you can also give them free avenues of exposure, right? I totally think you can do it on your own, but I also don't think it's going to hurt if I just simply mention something along the lines that you are potentially an available listing. Like, more exposure is not going to hurt you, right? So here's one that I personally have put into place. I connected a buyer and seller in Charlemagne, it's one of the subdivisions, and they bought a property without it ever hitting the market. Okay. If this is on your agenda, moving to the subdivision in the city, attending this school, I'd love to be your neighborhood expert, helping you find the deals that aren't always publicly available. Message me. Now, this was what I put out there, and well, let's just say it worked like a charm. Here's another one. I don't want to pay commission. All right, that's a big one, right? We've heard that before. Obviously, you get told, hey, focus on the net, right? Because it's not necessarily the commission that's holding them back. And I'm sure every for sale by owner has a bottom line. If that bottom line can be met, would it make sense for you to work with an agent, right? Can I show you how we do this? Showing you is not going to cost you anything, but you can make a decision in a better way. So when you look at that kind of mentality, I don't want to pay commission, it's up to you to really show them what is a potential buyer thinking. Well, what do you guys think if a buyer is thinking, right? Buyer drives by, sees a sign, and says, oh, he's selling for sale by owner, so he's not hiring an agent. Well, since he's saving the money on the commission, he certainly could give that to me in a lesser sales price. Just how people think. Am I right? So now the buyer is actually expecting a lesser price because the seller decided not to hire representation. Now, you and I understand that this doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because now buyer wants to pay less and you have all this legality on it. But again, it's our job to raise these questions of thinking versus telling them it, right? Now, I have a friend that's an agent. Everyone knows someone. At the end of the day, that's just the way it goes, right? I personally appreciate that. And one of the biggest things I typically ask is, do you feel like this is a favor you're doing? Do you feel like it's, you feel obligated? And let me ask you that. Would you also be okay firing your best friend? Like, you can fire me. No hard feelings. You're going to feel okay about it. If I don't do my job and I get fired, I deserve that one. Are you going to feel the same way about this with a friend? And some of you guys are probably having a big SOI to work, and you're going to be like, this is awful, Janine. Remember, I don't have a big SOI to work. I did not grow up here. I didn't go to school here. And one of the things that I had to learn was making sure that I get to the table and secure the deal. So this is a fantastic way to go about the objection. I have a friend that's an agent. Okay, because most people would not want money to come between a friendship. Just bring me a buyer. How about that one, right? Bring me a buyer and we can do a deal. Now, if you have a buyer match, right, which in this case, like my one case I was just talking about, I did. So I have a no agency agreement with the seller. I have an exclusive buyer agency agreement with my buyer. I was good to go. I'm like, yeah, I'll show it, no problem. Right? If you do not have a buyer, don't lie about it, first of all. Nobody should ever lie about it, right? It's more of a matter of, if they say, well, why did you not bring me a buyer, right? It's like, well, because my job is to specialize in listings, and here's what I do for that, right? You could also say, well, let me see it. I don't have anybody right now, but clearly I do a lot of the business down the street. And if I come across somebody, at least I know what the inside of your house looks like, and I can recommend it to somebody else. Okay, so if you can pick up a buyer at a nearby open house, for example, turn that into a potential buyer. Just be honest about it. You don't have to procure a buyer right now. But if you are active in a farm, this is so easy. Well, I host open houses pretty much, every single weekend. So if I have an open house and there is somebody and this house is not right, I will definitely make sure that I come back. Would that work for you? Does that sound fair? Right? Now, it also means that my job will be first to sell my own listing before I ever mention this for sale by owner to somebody else. Makes sense, right? I don't want to shoot myself or my seller in the foot that has actively listed with me, telling them about a for sale by owner. Just had that scenario as well. My job as a seller agent is to sell that listing. Make sense, everybody? Yes? All right, I'll keep going. I will use a flat fee service for the MLS. That has probably been my personal favorite. But if you listen in on how to handle this objection, I think you want to be like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. So there's a chance, right, that you could sell it, but there's also some cons. Do you mind if I go over these, right? If the MLS was to sell houses, we wouldn't have any listing agents anymore, but we do. So this leaves the question, does the MLS really sell houses? Pause, right? Dramatic pause. Well, I guess not, right? It's exposure, but it's not what sells the houses. So when you have to handle the multiple office appraisal gaps, escalation addendums, pushy agents, agents not willing to deal with for sale by owners, anything in between, you really want somebody that understands the negotiation. It is not about the MLS. I'm a big, big believer, and it's not about the MLS, right? It's all about the knowing of our market, the hyper-local expert that we are. So now let's put together a system that you can then utilize to make sure you are staying in touch. Because if you look at some of the statistics on how often people follow up, it's horrendous. It is just awful. And the problem is that there's no system in place, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the drop-off package. We're going to talk a little bit about postcard campaigns, and then we're going to talk about email campaigns, okay? So first up, drop-off packages. Now, what you see on the right is actually my pre-listing package. And that part is a simple, shock and awe package to put together. We drop these off at people's houses. Now, in order to make this niche specific to for sale by owners, I could also add other resources. Now, way back when I thought FSBOs are going to become a lead pillar of mine, I built out a FSBO resource guide. So all these little things here are things that I had created along the way. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger for you. And all these things I had created, I literally was just giving away, okay? So it was a simple thing to give a for sale by owner an entire package and make them feel like they got something valuable. So that package had included a safety guide, because at the end of the day, inviting a bunch of strangers into your house to scoot it out that you don't know who these people are is kind of concerning, okay? An open house guide. There's a guidebook on a for sale by owner. There was an instant home evaluation we gave them, a sign-in sheet for their open house, pictures of their home. We gave them like a list of here are the best things to do. We then gave them the the documents that was needed, an ultimate list on this one. And then we had listing your home on Facebook Marketplace. So this way they would get more exposure. And then a copy of our then current contract. So those were our FSBO items. And again, you can use some of them, all of them. You can create your own packages. There's a whole lot of things that I think you can create, purchase from Etsy shops or however not. Just make it relevant to what it is and make it usable. Like, don't give them a bunch of junk, right? So that was our ultimate FSBO resource guide. Like, this was our helpful hello. I hope you're going to get the price, because at the end of the day, if they get the price that they want, even if it's overinflated, this helps me as a real estate agent, right, price other houses. Now, what if these for sale by owners were letting their houses go for a low price? Obviously, that would impact me as well, right? So really trying to get them to understand this is me doing that, because even though you think I'm just after your listing, I'm also looking out for your neighbor who's going to sell in the next 3 months. That's my job as a hyperlocal agent. So next up was then a postcard campaign. Now, I am notorious for falling off the bandwagon. So many of you guys don't believe me. But at the end of the day, I am really not good on staying on track. I still have to come clean on my email on some stuff, but there was in the end of 2024 a 75 hard challenge I was gonna do and send 10 to 15 letters a day. I mean, how hard can it be, right? Right, Kelly? See, that's why I said text the word review now, just in case you have to go early. How hard could it be to send 10 letters a day? Well, it turned out it's really, really hard, actually, because you just don't keep up on things, right? Life happens, and then all of a sudden I didn't do it. So 2 or 3 weeks in, I said, okay, I got to figure this out. So I hired somebody to do it for me. Okay. And that's the part that I think it's really eye-opening when we try our best to be present and follow through without a real system in place. It's next to impossible. And that's the part that I needed to fix personally. I knew this was my bottleneck. My bottleneck was me and my inconsistencies. So what I decided to do was I'm going to put a postcard campaign in place that's going to be launched to this for sale by owner, one every week, right? So there's 9 postcards. I went to bit.ly, get templates now. I'll put it, I'll blend it in. And I purchased a 9 postcard follow-up. Let me see if I can blend it in. There you go. And I purchased a 9 postcard follow-up for sale by owners because I think the designs was spectacular. And I think it cost me like $10 or $15 or something like that. And I didn't have to recreate the wheel or spend hours and hours in Canva. So I went with that. And I started going through the copy, modified it, and then brought it to my print service, which is GeoCentral, and put it in there. And I'm not sure, I think I have a video of it for you to see too. And now when I see a for sale by owner, all I got to do is launch that automation, right? Yes, I have to drop off a package to them, which is not that big of a deal. They're pre-packed boxes. I just grab one. I have a couple in my car. And since it's in my farm, I'm there anyhow 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes, right? So I just drop that part off and then let this here launch on autopilot. And for the next 3 months, essentially, it just does its job. And all of a sudden, right, a for sale by owner will just try for a couple months before saying, okay, I tried, I failed. You've been providing info. Let's connect. So let me show you. This video here is straight from our GeoCentral website. It's free to watch. I'm not going to have you watch the entire thing. Well, we got some time actually. Maybe we'll watch the entire thing. But it's all about targeting FSBO listings with tailored postcards. So let me speed it up a little bit to the part where I'll show you the system, the back end of it, and you can start seeing how it gets set up. What you're looking at. Thanks for spending time with me today, and I'll see you in our next episode for day 10. Well, what you're looking at here is my for sale by owner follow-up. That's right. If I see a for sale by owner sign inside my farm, they're going to go onto this follow-up because chances are they can't sell their house on their own. They're going to run into issues and they really would like to hire me, right? I know we all want to tell ourselves that. So what's up with these templates? Where did I get them from? Let's start there. I am right now in Canva. I went ahead and bought myself some templates from Etsy because I like the way they look. So if you have a preferred template shop, feel free to see if they have one. If you do not have a preferred template shop, I'll show you where I got mine. You go to bit.ly/get templates now and look for sale by owner. There are postcards. I have resized them to 8.5 by 5.5 in order to fit GeoCentral. And then I just, well, branded them all to me and my brand. Yes, it took a little bit, but I know that this follow-up is going to work for me for the long run. So spending a couple hours just getting all of this done was not that big of a deal. Once I had this done, I hit simply the download button, and I went over to the GeoCentral print portal. Now, inside the GeoCentral print portal, I want to show you a couple things. We talked about our expireds on our last tutorial. That was fun. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But this one here is all about for sale by owners. And first up, make sure you have a for sale by owner contact group created. Okay, so right there, you can create a new group simply by clicking create new and new group, create one. This way you can save this link here, and as you're out and about, you can simply add for sale by owners into this. Okay, so when you drive past the sign, you're like, oh, there's somebody. Look up the tax record on your phone. Jane Doe, right? And then Jane Doe lives at 123 Main Street. Ooh, there's actually a 123 Main Street in various ways around me. All right, we're gonna go with this one. And when you have this, if there's a phone number, if there's an email, awesome, put it in there. Submit info, and they get added to that group. This will become important later because when you're out and about and you see that sign, it's so easy to just continue building your database, okay? All right, so once this group is done, we're now gonna go ahead, and first up, we gotta bring the postcards in. So for those of you that are wondering, how do we do that? Well, we have the templates, we downloaded them, and it is super easy to create a new project, right? Create a new project, and then you just go through one by one. And in this case, I have 9 postcards, so I didn't want you to watch me create 9 postcards because it's a lot. There's help and support and showing you how to use, this if this is your first time. All right. So as you can see, we brought all those 9 postcards, and I'm just gonna speed it up a little bit for you. So this way, you're not gonna watch all of this. But now the next part we did was we completed the automation. So I'm gonna hop to this part, and then you can see why I am, after I hit like run, run the automation, like I don't touch it anymore. So that's this one. So you see 7 days, 14, 14, 14, 14, 14. All right, and the last one. So we're just gonna that in. Post out 2 weeks. All right. There, yeah. Go. All right, and that was the last one. Awesome. Now, what if I look at this one and I'm like, oh, you know what? I really want to add another one. And what do? I just click the plus sign, and I can do that anywhere, which is kind of fun. I do have one that I want to bring in here. It's kind of like my Netflix card. Got it at the same spot that I showed you in the beginning of this video. So in case you're wondering, where's this from, Janine? Same spot. Go have a look. So now it just added this one straight on the top. Change the name of it. All right. So it's kind of my credibility builder. All right. So there's all the cards. Okay. So I'm going to just pause it here and then we'll finish up. But what you see here is really an automation build out. And again, I use GeoCentral. You can do all of this manual, set yourself a reminder every single week. But what happens here is every single week, it launches one postcard to that address. It allows me to not fall off the bandwagon because, again, notoriously bad on remembering. So this just now flows, and I can go and do other things like teaching lunch and learns. And then we're going to turn our attention to the last component of it, which is email campaign. Now, before I do, any questions on the postcard part, let me know now. But you now see that we've dropped something off. Now there's a follow-up in place. And some of you are saying, well, why don't you just call them? Why don't you just knock on the door? Well, it's because that's just not my personality. I'm not a person that will be aggressively going for it and be like, hey, can I help you? Or, hey, you should list with me. I think a lot of it is more on the nurturing aspect of it. And again, this is you understanding what you're willing to do to make this work. So for me, this is postcards. For me, this is setting it up in a way where it runs, so I don't have to be the one pushing the buttons, right? I used to push the buttons, and now this is just so much easier since we've implemented GeoCentral system. But that's postcards. Now, after postcards, we got one last thing that we want to add to, which is an email drip of sorts. Now there's also an 8 email sequence from Elevated Agent. Again, same link, bit.ly, get templates now. And I wanted to bring you a couple outside resources because I think it's important that you understand it's not a problem of, the resources. The resources are plentiful for people that are inside GeoCentral. We do have an entire sequence built out already for the seller follow-up. All you got to do is customize it a little bit to your brand and it's good to go. But it's super, super easy to then implement that one. And some of you are saying, well, how do I get their email? In the campaign structure, you always end up hunting down more data, right? At the end of the day, that is your job. How can you fill in your data gaps that you have? That might be, are they submitting their phone number willingly on their own, right? Are they submitting their email willingly on their own? And when you start getting more and more data on that for sale by owner profile, it allows you to really well round your FSBO follow-up. Okay. No questions on that or quiet crowd. Either way, I'm going to continue then. So what do we have in place, right? Now we have in place the physical items. That's the drop-off, gets delivered to their house. And I showed you like the niche packaging that we had done prior. Some of you are saying, man, I didn't realize there's this much stuff. Yes, there is. There's really a lot of things that you can do to make this one yours. Then there's the emails, right? That's the automated part where if you have them opt in of something, you may be able to follow up via email. And then there's the postcards. The postcards are probably one of my absolute favorites, not just because, I love postcards, obviously, but I think it's also the one that many, many agents do not do, right? And that's the part where you can seriously be in their kitchen. Like when so many people are trying to get into their house, you're already on the kitchen counter, right? You're already there. Your face is already there. You're building familiarity. It's almost like, well, I've already been in your house. Well, my postcard has, right? So it definitely is something that is not right for every single person that is more extroverted. You might just be more impatient and be like, I need to knock on this door. By all means, knock yourself out. But for those of you who have wondered, is there anything I can do and implement in my schedule? I think there is. I don't think it has to be complicated. So where do you find these again, right? Where do you find these for sale by owners? And yes, I think you can implement it as a general something to do. I just don't go all over the place. Like for me to find enough FSBOs to make this strategy work, I probably would need to go over 3 counties. And that's not what I built my business on, right? That's a lot of driving. That's a lot of like dropping off things. So, but I wanted something in place that worked well for me personally in my hyperlocal farm. And that's exactly what I showed you today. So how was class? We've made it through all the steps of, have you thought about dropping off something? Do you have something in place, right? Do you have something in place on the email drips that is relevant and valuable? Do you have something in place in the postcard? I literally showed you the exact system we have built out for this, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. You have to put things in place, but it's not complicated. So again, if this was helpful and if FSBOs are one of the things that you think I do want to implement it, by all means, go through the motions, start putting things in action, right? And if this was helpful, yes, we'd love a review. But this is also the part where it's now your turn to figure out, where do I go from here? If it is diving deeper into the mailers, for that part I can help. If you want to go after for sale by owners over 3 counties, again, not sure how much help I can be on that one. But for the postcards itself, yes, we can help on that. Either you're going to figure out how to put it all together in the bootcamp. If you're not quite there yet and you're like, oh, maybe I'll just read a book, that's totally fine too. Let's see, we talked about this ClassPass. If you need more classes that are actionable and actually are leading to, action and not just talking about it, please, by all means, feel free to grab a ClassPass. Geographic farming and direct mail marketing are the 2 topics you will find in so many different ways, such as hyperlocal lead gen with statistics, golden opportunity for seller leads, lead magnets for real estate agents, playbook for farming, 10 hyperlocal mailing strategies. The list goes on. Again, there's a button below the video for any of that. That's the ClassPass. And at the end of the day, thanks for being present. Thanks for learning. And we're wrapping up yet again really early. So, well, I guess it's a good thing. We just got a couple minutes back in our schedule. So happy Monday. Thanks for attending Lunch and Learn. And now it's your turn to pick your path after class. And if you got questions, drop them in the chat. I will go back through and answer. And if we stop the live stream, I'll find you on Messenger and reply. All right. Bye, everybody.